WWDC 2023 just ended, and I can't express to you guys what a crazy Apple event this was. Not only did we get updates to the Macs and software updates, but we also got Apple's virtual reality or augmented reality headset. Just as I predicted in my predictions video, this headset will change the way we all interact with technology. So make sure you stay to the end of this video, because I'm going to break down that entire headset and explain to you why it's the craziest thing we've gotten from Apple. But first, the 15-inch MacBook Air. Apple announced a slightly bigger version of their 13-inch M2 MacBook Air. I think this is an amazing thing because so many people want one of the cheaper Apple laptops which are light and powerful but at a bigger screen size, and here it is. It's going to have an 18-hour battery life, better speakers, and of course that really gorgeous large display. It's also powered by the M2 processor, just like the 13-inch Air, but it will have an 8-core CPU and a 10-core GPU, which I think is actually the same as the 13-inch. It will start at $12.99 US, and the 13-inch MacBook Air has actually reduced in price by $100 to $10.99. I believe this may be because it's such a popular device and Apple just wants even more people to buy it. So that's all great stuff. The Mac Studio also got an upgrade, just as I said in my predictions video. Now, the MacBook Pro got the M2 Pro and M2 Max, so it only made sense that the Mac Studio also got the M2 Max, going from the M1 Max. And the M2 Ultra. This is a crazy powerful chip. It's basically two M2 Maxes stuck together and gives you a 24-core CPU, which is 20% faster than the M1 Ultra, and a 76-core GPU, which is 30% faster, and apparently can support 22 streams of 8K ProRes video, which is insane. This Mac Studio is set to start at $19.99 US, and you can order it right now. Now, the Mac Pro. This is a computer I did not think we would get at this event, but Apple gave us a refresh to the Mac Pro, finally finishing the transition from Intel to Apple Silicon. Now, the Mac Pro is Apple's most powerful computer, and this Mac Pro is basically the same design as the Intel version. It's also going to have the M2 Ultra. Now, the only reason you'd probably buy the Mac Pro instead of the Mac Studio is if you want something that can be customized and changed. Have PCI expansion, add more storage, and customize your computer to the way you want. This is going to be very expensive. It's going to support up to 6 XDR displays and will allow you to customize the entire thing. It's set to start at $69.99, so basically $7,000 US, which is very expensive, but is going to be crazy powerful. When it comes to software, we of course got iOS 17. iOS 17 is kind of what we expected. There's no lock screen sharing or brand new widgets or clock fonts, unfortunately, but we do have something called contact posters. This means that if you have any contacts on your phone, which I assume you all do, you can have a poster for them and add their name to it, changing its font and its color, kind of like lock screen customization, but for your contacts. There's also live voicemail, which means you can now have transcriptions for your voicemail, which is great, and see what someone is saying in real time. You also have updates to FaceTime with video messages if someone doesn't pick up. iMessage also has search filters, transcribed audio messages, stickers, and also something that was on WhatsApp for years. If you go into a WhatsApp group, you can now go to all the messages that you missed out on, which should have been there some time ago. AirDrop also has this really cool new upgrade where you can tap your iPhone on someone else's to share a contact, photos, or files, and if you walk away, it doesn't break the connection, which is awesome. Along with a brand new journaling app where you can journal a bunch of your memories and feelings. Now, what's awesome about this journaling app is it actually looks through your iPhone at different photos you took and maybe music you were listening to on that day and turns it into a memory that it recommends to you, which you can then start writing your journal with, which I think is a really nice thing to initiate that first step into entering the app, especially because it's something so new. Now, my favorite feature with iOS 17 is this brand new standby mode. If you put your iPhone in horizontal mode on a MagSafe charger, it will display the clock almost in this nighttime mode. So when you go to sleep, it will show you important information like your calendar, what's happening the next day. You can swipe between important widgets and it will become red at night so it doesn't hurt your eyes, which is awesome because the always on display is cool, but I don't like to have it when I'm sleeping because it's very bright. iPadOS 17 is very similar to iOS 17 with the same apps, but there's also now lock screen widgets which I think is a bit interesting because it's actually on the left rather than underneath the clock. We also have the health app on the iPad, which is nice, and there's some really cool new upgrades to PDFs. You can now autofill certain sections in your PDFs, which you couldn't do before, and put them into your Notes app. There's also a really cool feature called live collaboration, where two people can have an iPad, one person can write on it, and whatever they're doing appears on the other person's iPad, which is great amongst students if they're studying together. We did get some cool new wallpapers as well, which looked really nice, and I think there's this feature where when you turn on your iPad, the wallpaper animates a little bit, which is really nice. macOS 14, which is going to be called macOS Sonoma. Now, this is going to have the same sort of apps as the iPhone and iPad, but there's this brand new feature, widgets on your home screen, finally for the Mac, which will look beautiful. Now, these aren't just normal widgets. When you open up, let's say Safari, the widgets in the background will dim so that it doesn't distract you when you're on a particular web page or an app, which I think is really nice and will blend in with different wallpapers you have in the background. There's also going to be brand new screensavers. These will look amazing. There'll be basically different places that you can travel to as a screensaver, kind of like the Apple TV. But as soon as you unlock your Mac, these screensavers will turn into your wallpaper, which I think is an awesome feature. We also got game mode for those with slightly more powerful Macs, where all of that CPU and GPU power focuses itself on the game that you're playing rather than any other task, which is cool, but again, no one's really gaming on a Mac. Video conferencing also got some upgrades, so you can now have better depth of field in these video conferencing calls with different things happening all over the screen. So if you put your thumbs up, you can now have fireworks playing in the background, and you can drag around different windows when you're sharing your screen with someone. What's really cool is these features don't just work in FaceTime, but also Zoom and WebEx. Safari, you can now share your passwords and passkeys with your friends and families, and you can create profiles, which I think is really cool. Because how many times have you gone into a website and logged in, open a tab, try to log in with your second account, but it just doesn't work? Now you can have profiles, so you can have your personal web pages and your work web pages, which I think is really cool. AirPods also got a small upgrade. This was through adaptive audio. This means you can have a mix of transparency mode and noise cancellation. So if these AirPods detect that there's some really unwanted noises coming around your area, then it will dim those noises. But when someone comes to talk to you, it will literally go into transparency mode and you can hear what they're saying, which is awesome. Airplay also got some upgrades where you can now go into hotels, scan a QR code, and immediately AirPlay anything that you want on your iPhone to the television, which is really clean. Apple Music didn't get as many upgrades as I hoped. I don't know if it's a full redesign, but throughout the event there were slight changes to the app. But you can now share play your Apple Music in a car if someone else's phone is connected to that, which is quite nice. But again, nothing too big. tvOS 17 also got some small updates with a brand new control center on the top right, which is really cool for getting information quickly. But we finally have FaceTime on Apple TV. Now this is possible through the continuity camera on the iPhone. Similar to putting it next to your Mac, your iPhone turns into a webcam, giving you higher quality video. You can now do the same thing with your Apple TV. When you put your iPhone next to it, it will essentially turn into a webcam and you can talk to people through your television screen. watchOS 10 didn't really get the redesign that we were expecting. It still has that honeycomb app layout, so no 3x3 apps, which is a little bit unfortunate, but you can now scroll from the watch face to introduce a bunch of new widgets, which is very cool and very customizable, so I think that's pretty clean. We also got some new watch faces and of course some new workouts like cycling and the health app on the Apple Watch, which is great. But the real upgrade at this event was the Apple Vision Pro. Now, I thought this would be called the Apple Reality Pro, and it's essentially their version of a virtual reality or augmented reality headset. Now, this is going to change the way we interact with technology, and I keep saying that because Apple themselves put an emphasis on this. We know that the Mac introduced something called personal computing, which changed the way we live our lives, and the iPhone is a more enhanced version of that. This Apple calls spatial computing, where basically you put this headset on and you can do all your computer work, whether it's, working on documents, surfing the web, watching movies, whatever it is, in an entirely new world with so much more space and screen real estate to work with. It has no remote whatsoever and is functionable through your hands, eyes, and voice, which is really interesting and something that we haven't seen before in a virtual reality headset. Now, Apple did talk about certain apps that work with this, such as Safari, which is supposed to give you a more immersive experience, being able to have multiple windows wherever you want, as though you have 15 different monitors in front of you. You can scale the size of the windows as big and as small with gestures through your hands. Photos is also something that's very cool. You can glance through all of your memories in an amazing experience. You can take photos with this headset with the photo button at the top and see them in this 3D form. Movies is going to be insane. I love going to the cinema. I'm obsessed with movies, and I can't even think how crazy it will be to put this headset on, basically sit on the edge of a mountain and then have an IMAX screen in front of you through a headset. Like, that's crazy. You can watch movies and it's on a whole nother level. In fact, Apple called the CEO of Disney on stage and he gave us a crazy new look at Disney Plus through Apple Vision Pro, where basically you could be watching The Mandalorian and sitting inside of an X-Wing fighter jet watching it. Like, whoever thought of that? That's insane. The design is crazy. It's basically made of a singular piece of laminate glass on the front with an aluminium frame to keep it very light. It's also got a digital crown that lets you control different things and maybe let you switch between augmented reality and other settings. It also has a thermal cooling system with a bunch of air vents and is a modular build, which means that you can basically take it apart and change it so that it fits your face. For example, the light seal, which goes around your eyes, comes in different sizes and you can take it apart, I'm assuming through magnets, and interchange different pieces, along with adding prescription lenses. So if you wear glasses, it's very easy for you to use. The strap on the side that goes around your head is said to be this rib-like design which expands and retracts and has speakers on the side to give you spatial audio. So imagine watching movies with this thing. It's going to be like a full-on cinematic experience. What's also interesting is, like I said in my prediction video, the battery is not connected to the actual headset to keep it very light and is instead this MagSafe type wire, kind of like what you plug into your MacBook, but goes and plugs in on the side of the headset, and the actual battery is a thin piece of aluminium that you put in your pocket. It has two micro OLED display panels inside, each together producing 23 million pixels, which will give you a crazy high-res 4K picture, which is amazing at HDR. It's so realistic. Apple even showed that whenever there's going to be windows or anything like that, it will actually show you shadows on actual surfaces in a room, which will be insane. Now, it does have two chips inside of it, the Apple M2 and the Apple R1. The M2 is essentially the performance chip, giving it all that power, but the R1 chip is what makes everything look so realistic. FaceTime You is going to be an awesome experience with this thing. It's going to be very realistic and will feel very futuristic, but it doesn't really show a picture of you. Instead, when you get the headset, it's supposed to scan your face and create a virtual image that people see when they're talking to you. So that's a little bit weird to me. It almost feels like people are talking to a hologram and not really a real image of yourself. So we'll have to see how that works. It's powered by Vision OS, which Apple says is a combination of things like iOS, macOS, and they've used all of that to create this new computing system. Now, they did give some examples of apps that could be used, like Adobe Lightroom, where you could edit your videos in this whole new space, and I think that will be an amazing way for creators to create new content. And it can unlock through Optic ID, where it takes a retina scan and essentially uses your eye to unlock the headset itself, which is great. So now we have Touch ID, Face ID, and Optic ID to join the party. It's going to retail at $34.99, so about $3,500, and will be available at the start of next year, only in the US. So hopefully it comes to other countries soon, because I'll tell you what, I'm going to be getting this headset in as soon as possible and reviewing it and checking out whether it's worth it or not. So that was WWDC 2023, probably the biggest Apple event we've had in a very long time, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm going to be getting this stuff in very soon, like the 15-inch MacBook Air and all that good stuff, so make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications. Also, make sure to check out this video here of the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra and what my experience was like with that phone. But other than that, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.